Okay, recording this video on Sunday, the 26th of June 2022. It's just gone midnight 25 minutes, Chicago time. It is kind of mid-afternoon here on Sunday in Australia. Do hope you are doing well. So, this video we're going to talk about the bonds. Is it time to buy bonds? Got a nice question earlier in the week from Alex K saying, "Hi Barry, what do you see on the bond market charts? TLT perhaps?" Thanks Alex. So I'm going to run through TLT and a few others. There's about 9 kind of interesting bond ETFs. I'm going to run through the daily charts on those just to show you what I am seeing. But before getting on to that, just to say we have had a really nice week in the E-mini. Last weekend's video I talked about this setup to go long, where on the 15-minute chart we had done enough damage on the downside and it was time to have a little bit of a rally. We had a pullback to end of trend on a left shoulder here, followed by pullback to end of trend on the intermediate time frame. Left shoulder, head of this head and shoulders, inverted head and shoulders move. This was the activity, kind of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, rally into this, another shoulder, so shoulder, head, shoulder, inverted kind of pattern, and we've broken into a nice uptrend. All the bars are kind of red, showing an uptrend here. So it's been nice for 250 plus points to the upside. I've actually taken profits on Friday at the close, or just after the close, at 39.15, just because there was a lot of blue professional bars, high average trade size coming into that Friday close, and we've also got Rambo patterns here with Friday's activity. Friday was great in terms of the size of the move. I think we were like 100 points up on the day, something like that. But it's kind of weak there with Rambo patterns and amateurs kind of playing at those highs. So time to just jump out of the market with a nice profit and just wait and see what happens next. At some point on the 15-minute chart, we're going to come into some problems here because we got resistance on the highest time frame. These very bold lines here showing us that we've had a cross on that highest time frame, and it's that's going to play in with another swing down on the 15-minute chart. Although it has not ended up with any pullback to end of trend signals yet, so we could see that with Monday, Tuesday's activity on this 15-minute chart, a little pullback to end of trend signal from which we could then, with next week's trade, kind of go test a little bit into those lows. So that was a nice one. But let's talk about bonds, because they've been sold off super hard this year, and so is it time to have a little bit of a nibble? So the first chart I'm going to show you is the rates charts. TradeStation provides some really useful indices of the rates, 30, 10 and 5 years. So this is $TYX.X is the 30-year interest rate, $TNX.X is the 10-year, and $FVX.X is the 5-year rates. They're multiplied by a factor of 10, so this 32.57 is actually 3.257%. It's interesting that the markets, each of these rates kind of bottomed at different numbers, but they're both sitting very close to this kind of 3.2 kind of percent on all 3 rates at the moment. The nice thing about beta sine wave is you can plot it on any indices, whether there's volume data or not, and it kind of gives you a sense of the trending and cyclical activity. So let's just have a look at, for example, the 10-year, the way this whole thing kind of set up. So the 10 years over the last couple of years, this is 2020, the rates were coming down and down and down, and we had pullback to end of trend on the lowest time frame, pullback followed by pullback to end of trend on the intermediate time frame, and then we went for a rally and then pullback to end of trend on the highest time frame. So you can see all of these patterns, whether you're looking at a 15-minute chart of the E-mini or a daily chart of rates, it's like you see the same patterns rippling through time and time again. So they're worth kind of paying attention to. When we bottomed down here, kind of mid-2020, there was a nice kind of pullback to end of trend, and then the test down here was to 1 and what is that? Was about 1.3% on the 10-year, and then this year, at the end of last year, into this year, we've had nothing but upside move in rates, and all of the charts show a similar pattern, but they kind of bottomed a little bit differently. So this is, pullback to end of trend followed by pullback to end of trend, the intermediate time frame. We tested back down again, a triple going on here. You can see there all three rates, support, 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 coming together very closely. Big things happen at triples, either big breaks or big bounces. We've got a big bounce here, bang, and we've had a nice little rally there. And then lastly, here's the 5-year, same thing, pullback to end of trend. It didn't finish off with a pullback to end of trend, but you can see we broke into a really strong rally on the 5-year rates, because we broke into red bars as we were breaking through resistances, bang, 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 all the way up. A little bit of weakness here, July, August last year, and then it's been up all the way. So we know what the story is on rates. It's been a super hard move up, and we've had a whole series of little pullback to end of trends. 1, 2, 3 on the lowest time frame here on the 5-year chart. On the 10-year, we've had a pullback to end of trend and a second one, pullback to end of trend. And on the 30-year, another, we had a little one there, pullback to end of trend, followed by pullback to end of trend. So super long, strong trending moves like that. We'll get one or two, maybe, sometimes a third pullback to end of trend. Third's kind of, unusual, but to have two shows that we've got a strong trend here. Now, just like we've had pullback to end of trend on a left shoulder here, which was an inverted head and shoulders pattern, we're forming a left shoulder here of a potential kind of head and shoulders moves. Now, who knows where this is going to go in terms of the pullback to end on the intermediate time frame, but for the time being, we've kind of maxed out here in terms of rates on this left shoulder. So we'd expect some kind of weakness in rates and therefore strengths in bonds for a short period of time, but that does not mean it's all over, because on this 30-year here we've got to go pullback to end on the intermediate time frame, because we're above the intermediate time frame resistance. On the 5-year, the same thing, we're way above it, so we've got to put in that pullback to end of trend, and most likely pullback to end of trend on the highest time frame as well, before this uptrending move is kind of over. And then if we look at the 10-year, same things, we're above the resistance on the intermediate time frame, so we've got to put in a pullback to end of trend. But for the time being here, we've kind of maxed out on rates, and so we could have a little bit of a rally in bonds. But is it worth getting excited and kind of jumping in? A little bit of a nibble might be worthwhile, but whether it's worth taking a big position depends on the charts. So let's look, starting with some of the ETFs. So TLT, we'll start with that. We're going to look at it in two ways. First of all, this is kind of the detailed charts using the better indicators. Everything on the left-hand side had to do with volume. We've got better momentum, which is a volume-based momentum indicator on the left-hand side. And here we're looking for exhaustion sell on the downside to bottom a move. And then we've also got better pro-am, which is using the average trade size to figure out where the professionals are playing. And we want to see professional bars at the lows, so exhaustion and professional bars. And then on the right hand side, everything to do with price based on better sine wave, which is below the price bars here. And here we want to see kind of bottoming activity with pullback to end of trends, and see if there's some confluence of those two signals coming together. So we'll do that for each of these charts, and then we'll look at the signals using the overbought, oversold kind of signals here. And I'd like having two charts side by side, a daily chart in this case, the higher time frame chart, and then for equities markets or ETF markets, use a 130-minute chart. There are exactly 3 130-minute bars in a day session of equities kind of trading or ETF trading, and so it allows us to look at these two kind of charts side by side and see if we've got some kind of confluence here. And for me, the most important thing is to see blue professional bars on the higher time frame syncing up with signals on the lower time frame. So that's what we're going to be looking for. So we'll start with TLT. So definitely we're down here with pullback to end of trends, showing that we've got a left shoulder kind of being made down here. But we do not have exhaustion sell on the downside. There's our top being made with exhaustion buy and blue professional bars. We need to see the inverse of that. We need to see an exhaustion sell and blue professional bars, and that probably needs to come with some kind of exhaustion pattern in rates, and it'll end up with an exhaustion pattern on the downside. So we are not seeing that on TLT on this kind of detailed view. If we look at the signals here, yep, at the highs we got nice little signals. There's our exhaustion pattern, blue professional bars, followed by two nice little signals using the triple signals here where we're overbought. We break the trailing stop, followed by, which is following up the professional bars, and we've got exhaustion buy followed by bearish divergence. That's what gives us the triple signals. So we had two triple signals at the top up here, but nothing on the way down. And we have no exhaustion patterns either on this daily chart or the 130-minute chart here. So TLT is out for me in terms of kind of looking interesting for a trade. Let's look at the next market, MUB, which is Munis. So here on a daily chart, this is interesting to me that the whole way down we've had blue professional bars kind of step in, and we've got some super severe exhaustion patterns going on here. Definitely these blue professional bars and the exhaustion sell signals are getting the move going. This is kind of people just piling out at Munis, and that's kind of starts the decline at 116 or whatever, and we're down at 104 now on Munis. So they started selling the move down here. They started to get back interested though, legging in at various levels, and here at the moment what we have is a little bit of a double bottom being made. Nice little pullback to end of trend pattern here. We've got blue professional bars at the lows and an exhaustion sell. So that's got some interest there in terms of reversal for the Munis. So let's have a look. This is MUB on this chart here. Loads this up, and here we go. We've got signals popping up on the daily chart here. So oversold, exhaustion sell, blue professional bars. We've broken the trailing stop here, and we've come back down to test with blue professional bars. No signals on the 130 minute chart. We had exhaustion buy, I think, at that point there on the 130 minute chart. Yeah, so it's on the wrong side of the market at that point here, there. Followed by a bearish divergence, but we've got something popping up on the daily chart here, and we've kind of tested back in. So Munis are looking interesting, which is of interest. Next one, let's look at tips. So TIP. So this is inflation protected down here, and again we need to be looking for blue professional bars, exhaustion sell. No, this is getting the move going. We don't have blue professional bars, exhaustion sell down here. Yep, we've got a little bit of a left shoulder being made, would pull back to end of trend, but we don't have kind of professionals kind of stepping in here. If we look at the signals on here, TIP, same thing. We've got no blue professional bars down at the lows here, so I'm not interested in this, although we have a signal a few bars ago on the 130 minute chart of the tips, and some blue professional bars. So it's kind of interesting at that point, but we weakened as soon as we had that signal. Bang, we kind of weakened back down. It did try to hold at that point and rally a little bit, but we fell through. So tips not looking very interested. Next one, LQD, which is liquid, which is the corporate bond market, so the high quality kind of bonds. Here we do have blue professional bars at the lows, which is interesting, but no exhaustion sell. That exhaustion sell is kind of getting the move going, so we've got that down there, but we don't have an exhaustion pattern. But it is interesting, we've got pullback to end of trend syncing up with cyclical support on the highest time frame there. So blue professional bars kind of stepping in, starting to get interested, but I don't think that'll be the end of this thing, because we've got a rally from this, and then we'll put in pullback to end of trend on that intermediate time frame. And I think if that's any of the story of all of these, it's that you could have a little bit of a nibble at the moment because we've formed some form of the left shoulder, but be prepared, because we might have a little bit of a rally into resistance. We'll go pull back to end of trend on the intermediate time frame, so there'll be another leg down in these as we have a leg up in rates. So so what are we talking? We're talking LQD, so let's look at LQD. Bang. And here, there we got a signal down here. It's playing off that exhaustion sell, so that was a fair few bars away. It is oversold down there. We have our blue professional bars kind of stepping at the lows, and we have exhaustion sell here on the 130 minute chart. We've not put in a bullish divergence yet, and we've not broken this the trailing stop. But LQD, that looks interesting for the next few weeks, to see if we get a signal on LQD on the 130 minute chart, because of these blue professional bars. But we will go for another test down again to put in that pullback to end of trend on the intermediate time frame. But that's another one that's kind of potentially of interest. So next one is HYG. So this is junk bonds. So this is the other end of the kind of the bond spectrum. It's the junky side of things. And here we do have exhaustion sell and blue professional bars. So interestingly, this is getting the move going. That exhaustion sell's getting the move going. Blue professional bars kind of selling it down, bang, bang, bang. That on the retrace, you can see the blue professional bars stepped in and sold it down. And then here, that's a classic kind of stair-step series down of trades here. On the retrace, blue professional bars come in, and then we followed by weakness as the trend continues. But on the flip side, down here, blue professional bars picking it up at the lows after a nice little sell-off with an exhaustion sell. It's a pullback to end of trend there, so potential left shoulder being put in. And let's go HYG to see if any signals have popped up. And no, not yet. But on the daily chart, there's our exhaustion sell. We're oversold. We've got to put in a bullish divergence, and this has got to trail back down. The professional trailing stop's got to trail down, and we've got to break that. On the 130-minute chart, there's actually an exhaustion buy pattern there, showing quite a lot of activity kind of buying that low. So they're definitely interested down here at 74, but it's not flipped to a signal yet. So that one's interesting as well. So corporate bonds starting to pick up. Then let's look at MBB. This is mortgage-backed securities, and this thing, look at the way this thing just absolutely tanked. So that's the support on the highest time frame, support in the intermediate time frame, and then this thing at the beginning of 2021 started into its downtrend. You can see all these bars of white, white, white showing our downtrend, and this thing just fell off. That's exhaustion sell kind of getting the move going through 106, and we keep going down. But left shoulder being made, pullback to end of trend come in on the lowest time frame, and blue professional bars kind of down here at the 94, 95s. But no exhaustion sell, so that's a shame. But let's see if we've got anything on the lower time frame. So here we go. We have the blue professional bars there. The exhaustion patterns are quite a ways away, so that kind of doesn't count. But on the 130-minute chart, here another one exhaustion buy here. So just like the HYG chart, the junk bond chart, a little bit of a rush to buy down here at these lows. And we've broken above those blue professional bars, oversold and so on. Well, clearly oversold because the thing's been oversold for a long time. So that's another one that's potentially interesting. But again, a left shoulder being made here. This has got to rally back up and then come down again to form a pullback to end of trend on the intermediate time frame. So if you have a nibble now, it's like be prepared that we'll have another test back down, probably to generate that exhaustion sell signal on MBB. So there are some other interesting ones to look at. We can look internationally now. We can look at IGOV. So this is international government bonds, and it looks very similar to that MBB chart, the mortgage-backed securities here. But a couple of better patterns going on here. Exhaustion sell and blue professional bars come in. Classic. That's a great one. And then here again, it was like a monster kind of sell-off here as we broke support in the highest time frame, and we've just formed our pullback to end of trend on the lowest time frame here, down here. So that's a left shoulder being made there. That's good. So let's see if it's generated any signals. Go IGOV. And here, no, not yet. But these are exhaustion sell signals. There's no bullish divergence coming on the 130-minute chart yet. Blue professional bars here and here, but not a heck of a lot right at the lows down here. On the daily chart, though, it is a little bit more consistent. That whole area from 40 to 43 is an area where the professionals are kind of picking it up. So that's looking interesting as well, IGOV, for a signal in the next week or two to see if we kind of get a bullish divergence there, more blue professional bars, trail the stop down a little bit tighter, and then see if we get a breakthrough there. So that's IGOV, and then the next one is VWOB. We're getting pretty down in the weeds here, but this is emerging market government debt. And similar thing, exhaustion sell, bullish divergence, blue professional bars at the lows. So that's kind of good for a setup. And here we've got another little pullback to end of trend. Double pattern, pullback to end of trend because the trend was so strong on the downside. Again, we're below resistance on support on the intermediate time frame. So we've got to rally back and then find that resistance and go pull back to end of trend on the intermediate time frame. But as a left shoulder, that's kind of interesting. And then let's go to this and VWOB, bang, down here. No signals yet, but we've got exhaustion sell, bullish divergence. We need to break through, and we're oversold on better sine wave here with the red background, so we've got to break up through this, maybe trail this stop over the next few days and see if we get a breakthrough there. On the 130-minute chart here, we've actually not had an exhaustion sell signal here, so these were exhaustion buy patterns. We've not actually had an exhaustion sell on the downside. So that's interesting. We've had this and this. A breakthrough kind of 64 or something like that might show that for the time being that damage on the downside is done. We'll have a little bit of a rally back. And then lastly, let's go to HYXU, which is international junk bonds. And here, again, just a total free fall at this point into this. I mean, how many pullback to end of trends did we have on the lowest time frame? I can see 1, 2, 3, 4. So there we go. That shows a super strong kind of trend where we just cannot get a left shoulder being made. It just keeps on dropping through these pullback to end of trends. And it's because there was no professional activity kind of coming in to buy the lows. We had a little bit of them legging in at 48, a little bit of legging in at 44, but that generated an exhaustion buy pattern. You can see it's fairly thinly traded. You can tell that by just the way the bars kind of look. But you know, potentially we've got an exhaustion sell kind of being made at some point with blue professional bars down here, but not quite yet. So that's international junk bonds, not interesting yet. And then let's just look at the signals. There won't be anything there, but HYXU, bang. And oh, actually there's on the 130-minute chart. I had one signal a few bars ago. So we got exhaustion sell, bullish divergence kind of comes in. It's actually based on that signal there, because those are little exhaustion buy patterns. But no blue professional bars at the lows there, no exhaustion sell on the daily chart. So not time to get interested in that. There's not enough professional activity kind of picking it up. But there are a few things that are looking kind of interesting. Actually, junk bonds, international government bonds, corporate bonds, mortgage-backed securities, and the munis. Some of those things are looking kind of interesting for a left shoulder, but with all of these, just remember that these rates have got to go to pull back to end of trend on the intermediate time frame. We saw all of those on all of these charts. We've got to see a pullback to end on the intermediate time frame to kind of properly bottom the market. But we could have in the meantime a short-term kind of little bit of a relief rally where people kind of step in. Let me just show you just the one IGOV that is kind of interesting. This one with the exhaustion sell and the blue professional bars kind of stepping in at low. Yeah, we're going to have pullback to end of trend on the intermediate time frame because that's sitting up there. That intermediate SR2 at 51.11 is sitting up there. We've got to go pull back to end of trend, but it's interesting that at the moment we're going to have some weakness in the US dollar and some strength in the non-US dollar currencies, and this is government bonds, international government bonds. So you could get a bit of a double whammy there from bonds rallying and the US dollar kind of weakening. So there we go. I wonder how long this video was. Potentially pretty long, but is it time to buy bonds? And it might be worth a little bit of a nibble, but remember we've got to see another kind of move down with that intermediate time frame. We'll pull back to end of trend before it gets really serious on the bond market. So there we go, and looking forward to next week's trade.